Hey everybody, Tom Lunfesti with NC Planning, back at you again with our daily counsel. We've made it through 5 days of daily counsel, and so far the feedback we've gotten is really positive. People are appreciative of it. It's led to other great conversations and calls. So again, we'll keep doing this as things evolve in the business and the individual world. Today, Lauren and Mike are back with me, and what we thought we'd do is kind of just a quick hit overview on some of the details that are hopefully going to be voted on today under the CARE Act. As you may recall, the Senate has approved it. It's sitting with the House right now. We're actually recording this about 9:30 Friday morning, so hopefully they're in discussions, debates right now, or review. We'll have a vote if it doesn't get derailed, and then we'll see a hopeful quick approval, and then really a rollout action, first part of next week to see kind of what all these things kind of look like. But fingers crossed that the government can get something right, get it in place, and kind of go forward from there. What we thought we'd do, though, is start out and just kind of breaking it up really under this CARE Act. There's kind of maybe 3 or 4 key sections, but the three that probably apply to our clients, our community, are the tax provisions of it, kind of some of the tax benefits that are in there, tax savings to employers and those that have become unemployed, kind of what those different provisions look like. And then the other is for business owners as well, is looking at the loan and disaster funding that's out there and will be provided through the SBA and otherwise. So with that, we'll kick it over to Lauren. Lauren, if you could give us a quick update on just, again, what has been passed under the Senate bill under the tax provisions of the CARE Act.
Yeah, happy to do so. Full preface, I am no CPA, but again, these tax breaks are broken down. We want to do some high-level quick hits for you. So it is something to discuss with your own CPA, see if you can reap any benefits, because these are really aimed at helping business owners through these tough times, hoping that they'll keep people employed. So there's a few different ways they're trying to help out business owners with these, and just high level touches on these. So net operating losses in 2018, 2019, 2020 can now be carried back to the preceding 5 years. Essentially, that stopped previously being available with the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017. So they're bringing back the ability to carry back those operating losses and deduct them from prior years' returns in hopes that they'll be able to get a refund and carrying those back. There's also an employer payroll tax delay. Essentially, employers can defer really 6.2% of the payroll tax that's due from now essentially through December 2020. It will need to be paid, of course, eventually. So they can pay it half before December 31st, 2021, and the remainder December 31st, 2022. A key provision, though, is essentially this is not eligible for employers that are seeking relief under an SBA loan and they're getting forgiveness for that loan. So that's something to evaluate of where's the more benefit for that business owner, something to be aware of there. Additionally, new employee retention payroll tax credits have occurred. So certain employers may receive a payroll tax credit for as much as $5,000 per employee to kind of help cover wages and health benefits that were paid after March 12th, 2020, before January 1st, 2021. And what the qualifying employer they're looking at, essentially businesses that may have been suspended due to governmental orders, or there's been a significant decline in gross receipts. So they're going to be looking at the same quarter of gross receipts from 2019. And if it's approximately, I believe what they're going to be looking at is 50% less of gross receipts have occurred in 2020, you might qualify for that payroll tax credit. There's also an increase of interest expense deduction limitations. Previously, essentially, when someone's paying interest on a loan, they're able to deduct a max of 30% of their adjusted taxable income. That is now increased to 50%. A key, again, to be aware of is they're looking at the adjusted taxable income from 2019 so that the HERT earnings in 2020 don't negatively affect that benefit. Modification of refundable minimum tax credits. So that essentially corporations with eligible minimum tax credits may accelerate those refunds. Essentially, previously they had to be stretched over several years until 2020. Now employers are able to refile for 2018, 2019, and take the full amount of that tax credit that they may have had sitting there. There was also a weird little technical glitch with the Tax Act that was passed in 2017. So businesses can now fully deduct the cost of certain property improvements back to 2018. So what they're doing there is trying to encourage people to do capital improvements. And if they had done capital improvements in 2018, 2019, they're allowing people to go back and deduct it. It's certain types of interior, non-residential building improvements. So if someone's done some upfits or something to a location, that's something to look at. Lastly, they are trying to make everything with the IRS a little expedited. So understandably, IRS needs a little additional help. There's $500 million in support to beef up operations and enforcement during this extended filing period, and with all these additional benefits coming down that the IRS is going to have to process. So fortunately, hopefully the real push is to get the benefits, the returns kicked around pretty quickly for business owners so they can truly see the benefit quickly. Because again, it doesn't do a whole lot of good if we're sitting and waiting on it. So that's just, again, high level touches on some of the tax cuts that are coming through with this. Fully disclosure, talk with your CPA, see what's most beneficial for you when we're looking at tax cuts, when we're looking at some of these loan forgivenesses that the rest of the team's going to touch on. But that's it for tax cuts.
That's great, Lauren. I appreciate it. And definitely looks, again, the whole intent behind this is to help businesses increase cash flow. So if you get to defer your FICA, payments for employees, with wages, everything else, they're basically trying to give you a little bit, extra breathing room from that. And some of those other taxes will come back to help you on tax returns, or you may be able to, kind of increase cash flow, right? So that's, I think, the focus of those tax savings. We'll see how those really are taken advantage of and kind of play out. Mike, turn it over to you as far as what employers and kind of the changes in the CARE Act. I know you touched on these in some previous videos, but what can you kind of give us is just a quick breakdown of where things stand at this point?
Sorry, I had the mute on because my children are in the background. So one of the things that I've had probably some of the most difficult conversations with over the last week with business owners is this, this pandemic and the resultant layoffs that have occurred. I can't tell you how difficult it has been for business owners to have to let go of people that they spend probably the majority of their waking hours with on a day in and day out basis. I don't think I've talked to one person, one business owner, one board that hasn't taken this extremely with the most heavy sentiment. The response that the federal government is giving through the CARES Act is that more help is on the way with unemployment and expansion of unemployment insurance benefits. So for the business owners out there who are having to let folks go, for the folks who are losing their jobs right now due to COVID, there is an expansion of unemployment insurance benefits built into the CARES Act. This is going to provide federal unemployment assistance directly to individuals, who are either themselves affected or indirectly through family members, loved ones affected by COVID-19, including, and this I found really most interesting, individuals that typically would not be eligible for unemployment. So there's some assistance being built in for independent contractors, for folks who are self-employed, and for folks who have maybe a different work history than would have been needed prior to COVID-19 to qualify for unemployment benefits. Again, this is assistance coming from the Fed, in addition to that assistance at the state level. Coverage is going to be extended to individuals who themselves, like I said, have been directly affected, either having symptoms or who've been diagnosed by COVID-19, with COVID-19 rather, who maybe have a family member that has COVID-19 that they've been exposed to or that they're caring for, or if their kids are out of school or resulting in a quarantine, or if they're unable to work because of a quarantine or because of a stay-in-place order, shelter in place, stay-at-home order. We're seeing those roll out in North Carolina right now on a county-by-county basis. We touched on those yesterday. And then the actual benefits themselves are being expanded. So not just to who they can be extended to, but for what they are, for how long they last, right? We're seeing now up to 39 weeks is what's being reported for these benefits. And I believe that the act is going to increase the funding that you would get on the state level from the federal level by weekly benefits by $600 per week. So what that is designed to do, and this is largely derived from what I'm hearing the talking heads report in the media and Mr. Mnuchin and so forth, is that they're really trying to get, with that $600 a week boost, they're trying to get folks who qualify for unemployment up to about 100% of what their paycheck would typically be if they were working had it not been for the COVID-19 pandemic. And that's a little bit of a recap of what we're seeing in unemployment benefits. I did want to touch on one other item that's not directly related to unemployment, but it is related to the small business owner. And we see a lot of this with folks that we talk to. I was inspired last evening. I saw Verizon did a special sort of pay it forward concert with my favorite musician, Dave Matthews. And Dave referenced this idea, so I'm totally really paying it forward, passing it on to everybody out there. But we all have small businesses that we love, that we frequent. They become almost part of our family, our extended friends at the very least. It might be a coffee shop. It might be where you get your hair cut. It might be a friend's, well, nobody has a record store anymore. But when I was a kid, it was a friend's record store. It could be anything really, but the small business restaurants are hurting right now. Reach out to them. If you have somebody that is a favorite small business owner like that, see if there's something you can do maybe to prepay. Hey, I get my haircut with you once a month. Let me buy 6 months of haircuts from you. I buy my coffee here every day when things are operational. Can I buy a month's worth of coffee? I think if we all try to pick one and do that, maybe we can help cure this thing a little bit ourselves. So that's my own sort of Feel Good Friday message on that, is think of your small business owner, see what you can do to help. And everybody hang in there. I think we're all going to get through this. The team at NC Planning, of course, we're here to help. Give us a shout if you need anything. And with that, Tom, I know you were going to talk a little bit about some of this SBA development, so I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, that's great, Mike. And I think to that point, again, why we're trying to provide resource, but it's a huge, kind of recommendation. Anything you can do. We are definitely on a daily basis, talking to our clients, the business community, and they are hurting right now. So if you're not in that situation as a business owner, but as Mike, kind of mentioned, your favorite coffee place, gift cards go a long way right now. And of course, anything you can do to really reach out and support, does go a long way, because they're hurting and they're waiting for help. And so hopefully Congress, gives the, some help that's on its way, but it's just timing wise, can they get there? So anything you can really do to do so would be great. Quick update. We've also touched on these. So under the CARE Act, really, there's kind of money, coming on the way. There's really two elements to that, two loan programs. One is the SBA currently has a program which a lot of business owners have already applied for, which is the SBA disaster loans. And so that is something that's been there. I know a lot of you in the business community have already gone online with the SBA and applied for those. Those are the stories of the SBA sites crashing, just kind of lagging, no updates. But I'll give a quick overview on those. The CARE Act also gives some more funds allocated to those SBA disaster loans. The other is really using these SBA 7A program loans that are focused on payroll protection. And so I'll give kind of what those loans look like, but that may be an option for you. The other is North Carolina has loans available too, smaller, but hopefully quick relief for working capital. I'll just give a quick hit on those as well. So under the CARE Act, the SBA disaster loans, you can go apply for these now on SBA online, but they are direct loans from the SBA for up to $1.5 million. I think it's 1.5 or 2. Again, online application. The process right now, from everything we're hearing from our community, is it's slow. You can't get an update on your status. Everything's done online. Overall, though, it's supposed to take about 4 weeks total to get those funds, about a 5-week review for the SBA, or 5-day review for the SBA to get back to you, and then about a 3-week processing time. That could all go to heck, of course, under this current situation. They're about 3.75 interest rate for a 30-year term. So they're good, favorable terms if you can get them. And all you have to really show is substantial economic injury, which most of you out there won't have a problem doing that. And you have to be less than the 500 employees. There's also a potential under that you can get a $10,000 immediate advance. So that's something to look at, as well as kind of that immediate funding. Not that $10,000 is a lot of money right now to those that really are burning, through cash on the business community, but definitely something to look at. So the CARE Act has provided additional funding for that, hopefully to kind of get that really moving. And then the other option is the SBA 7A Paycheck Protection Program, which has been a lot of what we've discussed with clients, a lot of what's kind of been out in the media and everything else. Again, the CARE Act's providing about $350 billion to small businesses under this program, which will essentially be through SBA approved or qualified lenders in the private community. So these are your typical banks, your lending and other agencies that do SBA loans, or that will be qualified to do so in the next couple of weeks. So you won't go through the SBA direct like the disaster loans, you'll actually go through private lenders. We're waiting on approval of the CARE Act, and then the SBA and the banks will react. So really this is next week. We're looking at hopefully having kind of certainty of who's going to be able to process these loans, what the process looks like, and getting to the right ones, because we do see it as an overflow situation. You can get up to $10 million for payroll, mortgage, rent, and utility payments. Really, they're looking at a period from February 15th to June 30th. So they're looking at this disaster window period. The max amount, though, that you can get is 2.5 times your average monthly payroll. So basically, a lot of the application process will be around your payroll for the last 12 months. You'll take an average of that. You basically get 2.5 months potentially of breathing room of loan amounts. They're going to cap that for a lot of businesses. The key part, and Mike touched on this yesterday, is you can go and get these loans, but there is a potential to get a portion of these loans forgiven. And that loan forgiveness period basically is about 8 weeks of payroll cost, that once you get the loan, that clock, from what we can tell by the bill, that clock's going to start ticking. And basically, once you use the funds, the Fed is going to come back later upon your application and say, okay, the first 8 weeks of your payroll during that loan period, we'll just go ahead and forgive. You don't have to repay. Again, eligibility for that, timing of that, still waiting to see on details. But that seems to be the real kicker, because that's, to a lot of businesses, the amount you may not have to repay. Timing of that, making sure you've rehired employees, that fits with reopening your business timeline, are all things that you really need to examine. So again, details hopefully that help, but also some strong business decisions and potentially some legal decisions on how and when you apply for these loans need to be decided. 4% is the max interest rate that can be charged. They're a 10-year overall max term, but there is no personal guarantee. They're fully federally backed. There's no prepayment penalty. So if you take the money, essentially, and then decide to repay it in 6 months, you can do so without penalty. And you can actually defer or seek deferment for the first 6 to 12 months. So again, they potentially may be great loans to just have on the shelf to go do that. We're encouraging a lot of clients to start working on that. We're working with clients to kind of build out those applications, contact and work through SBA lenders at this point, just to be ready in case you need it. The other, as I mentioned, not part of the SBA programs, but more North Carolina, they call them rapid recovery loans based on disaster, but up to $50,000 or 2 months of your revenue for your business. 6 months, no interest or no payments, 5.5% interest, so a little bit higher, 4-year term, a little bit less term. And if you go and get an SBA loan, you then have to kind of assign your proceeds of the SBA loan to pay off this North Carolina one. But you may have a little bit quicker source through North Carolina for immediate needed capital than potentially the disaster program or otherwise. So it's another option. But again, SBA disaster loans, the standard option that has been out there in the past, they're kind of funding that with more money under the CARE Act. Those you apply for SBA Online Direct. There's the SBA 7A, this payroll protection program coming out that will go through private lenders, loan application, the loan forgiveness, all of that needs to be closely looked at. And then North Carolina providing some relief as well. We're also, of course, I know Mike's been on the forefront of this, talking to clients about talk to your landlords, talk to your banks, talk to your vendors. Right now, start negotiating good terms and deferment of that, everything you can do to help on cash flow, right? Because we know that's where everybody's suffering right now. If your doors aren't open, if it's a trickle, right, on revenues, then you need help on those expenses. And for the most part, we are seeing, other companies like the landlord companies and the banks, of course, are all reacting to give breathing room. And so that would be a first place to start to get immediate help. Hopefully, that's a quick overview. We'll have more details as things roll out next week. Lauren, Mike, I appreciate your guys' time in the overview in this. Appreciate carving out the time this week. We'll put a link in this, in the video and in the emails that we send out for our call scheduling. If you do want to know more about these loan programs or whatnot, again, we're not offering any kind of fee. We're not charging any fee for the consult for this, just as a resource. We'll put that Calendly link in there so you can schedule automatically. We'll be happy to run through with what we know now, what may be coming down the line, what may work for you in your business, and kind of see where we go from there. So again, hopefully it's a good resource. Lauren and Mike, thanks for your time this week. I know it's a busy day today, will be tomorrow and Sunday as well, but hopefully we'll have more to share on Monday, if not before. Anything else to add, guys?
That's it.
That's for now.
All right, everybody have a great end to your week. It's been a tough one as the week before has, but as Mike put it, we're going to get through this. I think if anything, we're starting to see the positives, the community, business and individual community really step up. And we know that, again, perseverance will go a long way. We're starting to see positivity as long as some of these businesses and individuals can get help. So do your part. Hopefully we're helping and doing ours. And we'll see you guys next week, if not before.